जेडी कति हाम्रो
भन्नुपर्छ कि जिम्मा दिने त ठिकै हो एजुकेसन सेक्टरको सरले म चन्द्र सरले भन्नु भएको थियो नाम सबै बनाएर इमेलहरू हाल्नु लगाएको
के भन्छ यहाँ एजुकेसन सेक्टरमा पास गरिसकेको छ
ल्यापटप पनि खराबी देख्यो
पहिले चाहिँ त्यसको पार्टिसिपेन्ट्सको पोटेन्सियल लिस्ट चाहिँ हुन सक्छ भने
ल आयो भयो सर भयो यसमै लिङ्क गरौँ होइन लिङ्क गरेर भइहाल्छ
के भन्नु त्यहाँ गएन यहाँबाट त काम गरेर केबलले त्यहाँ चाहिँ केबल कुन भइरहेको केबल त यहाँ छ केबल त यो कम्पेटेबल भयो कि एउटा केबल चेन्ज गर्नु
केबल सेटिङ पनि मिलाएर
उसको भन्नु हिजो मात्र फेरि के
यो केबल जोडेको इनपुट पोर्ट नमिल्दा यो केबल केबल नि यसको केबल चाहिँ रिमोट केबल जुन रिमोट छ रिमोट यसको रिमोट दिनु त्यहाँबाट पठाउँदा एकचोटि अब पठाएन भने पोर्ट नमिल्छ
उसलाई चाहिँ गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ त्यो अर्को सेक्सनमा छ तर यसमा पनि
यो रिमोटै काम गर्छ यो काम गरेर छैन रिमोट पोर्ट चेन्ज गर्नु पर्यो क्या एकचोटि त्यो अहिले आयो एचडिएमआई 1
वास्तवमा इन्डियामा पनि के अरे हाम्रो राजु सरलाई पनि
एकचोटि 3 पनि राख्नु है तीनटा पोर्ट
दुईटा मात्रै हो अर्को त डिजे हो
यो या त केबल राख्छ कि छैन एचडिएमआई 2 मा थियो हैन
2 मा त आइरहेछ 2 मा त यसकै हो
त्यहाँबाट पठाउनु भयो क्यामेरा पठाउनु भएको हो त्यहाँबाट पठाउनु भयो
सरलाई चाहिँ तपाईहरुसँग कुरा गर्नु पर्यो एउटा
सकिन्छ उता हाम्रो उसमा पनि
साइन्टिफिक पेपरमा छ गाडी फोन गर्नुहोस् यदि गाडी छ आज कुरा गर्नुहोस् है
एक्स्ट्रा प्रोजेक्ट छैन
हजुर सर यस्तो त्यहाँबाट यहाँ चाहिँ लिङ्क गरेर पठाउनु मिल्दैन त्यसमा त यो यसो गरौँ त सर हामीले के गरेको भने
यो पोर्ट काम गर्छ ए आयो भर्खर
फाइनल भयो त्यो मक सेसन गर्नै पर्यो नि
खोज्नु पर्ने फेरि दुईजना इम्पोर्टेन्ट गर्नुपर्ने भएर
क्यामेराबाट ठिक थियो उताबाट चाहिँ आएन क्यामेराबाट जोड्दा ठिक छ
अब उता ल्यापटप यो
ल्यापटपमा जोडिसक्नु भएको छ ए यो कसरी
बस फिजिकली यहाँको बेलामा सिपिआरआई
वानमा हो उता जोड्नु भइसक्यो
टुमै छ नि हैन
यसबाट चेन्ज गरेर त
अनि एकचोटि चेक गर न सोर्स
चेन्ज गरेर
आयो
केवल बेसी छैन जस्तो लाग्यो
यो उताको नो सिङ्गल उताको जुन छ नि ल्यापटप चाहिँ कति 2 मा जोडेको 1 हो
उताको
हजुर उताको हाम्रो ल्यापटपै स्लिप मोडको रहेछ
नम्बर 2 हैन
वायर त ठिक छ
स्क्रिन त चल्छ नि हैन
स्क्रिन चल्छ तर तपाईको त्यहाँबाट
प्रेजेन्टेसनको लागि पनि छ
यहीँबाट राख्नु मिल्छ
सर
साफ गर्नु त एक्चुअली
ठुलो वायर
यो वायर तपाईँको यहाँबाट आइरहेको छ भने त
छैन
यो वायर
फ्रिलान्सिङ हिसाबले तपाईँ गरे बाहिर
एजुकेसन में अभी पता
म त्यही नै
सिपिआरआई हो नि धेरै भयो
त्यही हो नि
पता हो जर्नी कता हो
डाइरेक्टर म डेपुटी प्रेसिडेन्ट
जर्नी कता हो
एकैछिन है
भइसकेको छैन
यो अर्को केवल पनि तपाईको
तपाईँको अघि चलेको पनि केबल कुन चाहिँ हो अघि चलेको केबल अहिले त्यो एक्चुअली यसबाट चलिरहेको छ अहिले फेरि गरेको
यो त्यहाँ जोडेछ कि के छ
जोडिया छैन अहिले
यसले जोडेर यो चलाएको छ
यो चलिरहेछ यसबाट आउँछ
ल अब
यो तार उता छ
यो 2 मा गयो भने अब
यो त यही
1 मा
अन्डरग्राउन्डबाट त्यो
एसडिएमआई अथवा
यसले चाहिँ अन्डरग्राउन्ड त्यो वायरिङबाट राखेको छ
यो आइसकेको यो पनि आएन
एसडिएमआई छ के हो
हजुर एकैछिन चेक गर्नु
सो अघिको एउटा केबल छ नि त्यो तारमा एसडिएमआई केबलमा टेकेर बसिरहेको छ अघि लास्टमा टेस्ट गरेको कुन केबल कुन हो यो अहिले गरेको यो माथि भयो भने यो ठिक छ होइन अघि तिमीहरूको नचलेको केबल छ नि यसो गर उल्टा गर न यो उता लगाइदियो होइन त्यो यो तार एउटा लिएर आऊ यसो उताबाट लिएर आऊ यो तार अर्को रिसिभ लिएर आऊ यो कि कुन कम्पनीले राख्छ उताको छ नि उताको एकछिन लिएर आऊ यो टिभीमा जोडेर होइन यो टिभीमा जोडेर ऊ आयो त ए
सर्कोबाट पनि आयो
होइन यो तारको एन्ड छ नि एन्ड लिएर आउनु यो तारको एन्ड अर्को एन्ड लिएर आउनु
यसलाई उता लाने यो यता ल्याउनु
कहिले फ्रन्ट ब्याकमा केबलमा हुन्छ कि एचडिएमआईको
7 यता ल्याउनुहोस् त
यस्तो त हुँदैन होला नि है
यति भइपुग्छ
त्यो लाइभ पनि जानु पर्यो नि त लाइभ जानु
अब उहाँको पेपर हो त्यो सेसनमा अब अनलाइन कसरी जोइन गर्छ भने
त्यो मलाई हजुर यो यहाँ
अनि त्यसपछि हामीले यो चाहिँ चलाउनु पर्यो होइन अब यो चाहिँ गर्नु पर्यो
यो थर्ड के भयो
यो भर्खर स्टार्ट गरेको फ्रन्ट र ब्याक
त्यो भर्खर चलेको कताबाट यताबाट आयो
अहिले भर्खर चलेको त्यो यो वायर चाहिँ चलिरहेको
त्यो मैले केबलको प्रब्लम हो त्यो अघिको पोर्टमा राख त चलेको पोर्टमा हाल त सोर्स चेन्ज गर्नु अघि कुन पोर्टमा चलेको थियो 1 मा कि 2 मा
2 मा
यहाँबाट जुन चलाएको त्यसको अल्टरनेटमा त जे पनि छैन माथिको उसमा एक्स्ट्रा छ जेमा
सो उहाँको चाहिँ स्क्रिन सेयर गर्नु
यो केबलको प्रब्लम यो केबल मैले उल्टा गरेँ
अब अहिलेलाई अहिले भनेर उहाँको प्रेजेन्टेसन
अब यही जोडिदिनुहोस्
अब चाहिँ यही जोड्नु
अहिले
त्यसले फेरि सबैको इनपुट लिएर नि त
सकेन भने छ नि मलाई जस्ट सेन्ड मी सबैको एरियाबाट म घरबाट म आफै गरेको
एकछिन जोड्नु भएको छैन
सो म अनिलाई के गर्नु सक्छु भने फर्दर कम्युनिकेसन गर्नुपर्ने छ म सरलाई एउटा सेन्ड यु सो द्याट इट्स इजी हजुरले त इनफ्याक्ट कति लाइक एपबाटै पनि सो बार रेजिस्टर हुने बित्तिकै एभ्रीबडी क्यान युज द एप एन्ड दे क्यान टक It's complicated. It's very easy.
अहिले सबको प्रेजेन्टेसन चाहिँ बढाएर सब काम छ भने हामी म यो जरुरी छ एकदम जरुरी छ यो पेपर सुन्नु ल सोरे सर फुल स्क्रिन एकैछिन यो
यहाँ जाँदाखेरि मैले यहाँ किबोर्डले फेरि प्रोपरली काम गरेँ
म्यागी कनेक्सनमा छ कि छैन
छैन
हामी मात्रै हो
कस्तो सानो बसेर आएको
फुल स्क्रिन प्रेजेन्टेसन कपी गर्ने हो त्यो स्लाइड सोमा भइगयो नि
त्यही नै गर्नु पऱ्यो यहाँ
जुममा स्क्रिनसट भन्ने लिङ्क गर्नु
माथि फाइलमा गरेर अनि स्लाइड सो आइहाल्छ नि
लिङ्क गर्नु पर्दैन
फुल स्क्रिन
गरेपछि गर्दाखेरि फेरि लिइरहेको छैन कि अब यो गरेर लिँदैन कि फेरि
सो यो अब आफ्नो नाम के हो भनेको सो सिलगढी यो नाम भन आकृति सो यो सेसन छ नि सेसन कम्प्लिकेटेड सेसन सो म भनौँ एज अ मोडरेटर वेलकम टु आवर सेसन अन इन्टरनेसनल पर्सपेक्टिभ अन नेपाल रिकन्स्ट्रक्सन एन्ड रिकभरी and I would like to introduce Maggie Stevenson, who is going to chair this session, and I'm going to ask her to say a few words to start. Now I'm going to ask Mr. Suryanarayan Sir to make his presentation on international perspective, Nepal's reconstruction and recovery. अब यो चाहिँ टाइम गरेर राख्छु and let's see how many minutes story.
Actually, today I don't need much time because
Just so you get an idea.
of the presentation. But I'll show whatever I have got today. So, respected chair, dignitaries, and all the participants of this roundtable discussion. This discussion is centered around Nepal's reconstruction and recovery from the international perspectives. And during this presentation, I will try to compare Nepal's reconstruction with some of the other reconstruction efforts in similar contexts, and then we together will try to draw some lessons from these reconstructions. And this presentation has been prepared by a group of people, including myself and Maggie and a couple of other colleagues. In first part of the presentation, what we have tried to do is to try Nepal's reconstruction, to compare Nepal's reconstruction with some of the other regional reconstructions in similar context. We all know Nepal earthquake or the Gorkha earthquake happened on February 25th, 2015, and the magnitude was 7.8 in 11:56 local time AM. Epicenter was in Gorkha Park, and death was nearly 9,000, and injury was 22,000 plus. And we know the damage figures. This is the damage loss that estimated by PDRF, Post-Disaster Recovery Framework. And we know that the earlier estimated loss figure was somewhere around 6.7 billion, and the revised loss figure was 8.4 billion. That was the extent of damage and loss that happened in Gorkha earthquake 2015. Likewise, if we see similar earthquake damage in some of the regional experiences, for example, 2001 Gujarat earthquake in January 26, the magnitude was very much similar, 7.7 magnitude, and it happened in 8:45 local time of India, and the death was somewhere around 20,000, and the injury was 150 plus. And if you see the damage of housing, we find that the housing stock.
Sorry, am I on?
Damage was nearly $500 million, and the estimated loss figure was somewhere around 2.6 billion in Gujarat. 2.6 billion of that time, not the present value, of the value of 2001. In the Gujarat earthquake, 2001 January 26, and 2 weeks later, GSDMA, the Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority, was formed, which was to lead the reconstruction efforts in Gujarat. In the span of 2 years, over 70% of the repair and reconstruction of the houses, the private houses, was completed in 2 years span. And after somewhere around 3 years, GSDMA was made sort of a permanent body to lead disaster risk management in Gujarat State.
Roger, just wait for some minutes.
Disaster Management Act was.
Can you hear me now?
In India.
I can hear you, but we cannot hear you through the system, so we are just waiting for the technical persons.
GSDMA was to lead the.
I also have some PowerPoint slides. I wasn't sure how I was going to share them this afternoon.
More than 900,000 houses were repaired, and more than 200,000 houses were reconstructed in Gujarat. I will come back to these lessons slightly later, because the slides have been still to organize. Sequence is not in order. Likewise, 2004 Great Tsunami of December that affected more than 20 countries severely, including Indonesia, including India, including Sri Lanka, and most of the extensive damage happened in Banda Aceh of Indonesia. Mid-January 2005, international donor meeting was held, and then to help the recovery construction in Banda Aceh. March 2005, 12-volume master plan was prepared to help reconstruct Banda Aceh. And these are some of the details that we have got, but to summarize, what we see is by end of 2007, more than 300,000 houses were reconstructed in Banda Aceh. That was the level of reconstruction that happened in Banda Aceh. In Pakistan, 2005, October 8, the magnitude was almost similar, 7.6 magnitude earthquake that affected Kashmir, and the Pakistan side of the Kashmir as well as Indian side of the Kashmir was also affected by that earthquake. Nearly 73,000 deaths happened, injuring more than 125,000. And if we see the extent of damage to the housing sector, we find that more than 700,000 houses were damaged. Totally destroyed more than 450,000 and damaged near about 150,000 damage. 80,000 plus families lost their land. This is again another example which is very much comparable to Nepal.
Hello, it's Roger Sutton here from New Zealand. I wonder if anyone can hear me. Roger Sutton from New Zealand, and it's 20 to 10 at night over here. And it's been a beautiful day in little old Christchurch. And I'm not sure if anyone can hear me, or if you can, whether you're interested anyway.
$21 billion was the GDP of that particular year in Nepal, and whereas the loss was $7 billion.
So I can't
Whereas,
hear
for
anything at the
example, in
moment.
India, the GDP was 485 billion US dollar, and the loss due to
Cannot
impact
hear
of it
anything.
was, if you see, it is 2.1 billion only. So in terms of percentage, the percentage of GDP Nepal lost was somewhere around 33%, whereas the percentage of GDP India lost was less than 1%. So in terms of the size of the effect, size of the impact to the economy of the country, Nepal suffered more. Likewise, in Pakistan also, the GDP was slightly higher compared to Nepal, almost 5 times, and 10 was the GDP of Pakistan, whereas the loss was 5.2 billion US dollar was lost in Pakistan's case. So what I'm trying to say is the extent of impact of the earthquake in Nepal case, it was way higher than the extent of impact of Gujarat earthquake or the Pakistan earthquake. But compared to that, the level of success that we have achieved so far is, if we compare in terms of those extent of damage and losses, is significantly high. So these are the slides that I have got so far. Okay. I'm still working on it, and what I'm trying to draw some of the lessons, and I'll go to some of the lessons now.
So just quickly, so you have used only half.
Roger, you can go ahead.
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Should I? I mean, I have a PowerPoint presentation which I thought I was going to be able to share, but I can't. Should I just speak for 2 or 3 minutes so we can all make sure the technology works to that extent? Is that a good idea?
You can do. If you plan to do the PowerPoint, it's better to do that also, because our people need to check if they can handle that as well.
So if I push on the share content, I get a message: only host can share in this meeting.
You have to send the PowerPoint beforehand, Roger.
Okay, so I shall do that tomorrow.
Yes, I think it's fine.
Yeah. So what would you like me to do tonight or this afternoon, as it is in Kathmandu?
Yeah, you can do your presentation from there, Roger, and then we'll wrap up.
So should I just speak now?
Yes, please.
So look, I mean, I'm gonna speak about, New Zealand is this country which is a long way away from Nepal. We are an island nation of 5 million people, and we too were hit by a very large earthquake in year 2010, 2011. And my little city of Christchurch of 400,000 people was very severely impacted. I was going to speak quickly about the fact we had something like 10,000 earthquakes over a period of 2 years. And our biggest issue was really the land issues. It was a city where we had rivers, where we had hills, and we had very big issues in terms of rezoning land. So many parts of the city were unsuitable to be able to be rebuilt on. I ran the organisation, the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority. This is all on the slides, as you can imagine, where we had this long process of trying to work out where we could safely rebuild in the city. The process took something like a year. At the end of it, about 10,000 properties rezoned red. And red meant you weren't able to rebuild, and the government paid them out. Some of the lessons out of that was the fact that the government actually had relationships with engineering consultancies who knew how to deal with government, who knew how to talk to ministers, and those sorts of things. Having established institutions who knew how to work in the system was extremely important. But also by having, in New Zealand, we have a very wide and extensive insurance system. Something like 98% of people were fully insured. And one of our concerns was we ran our process, we kept the faith of the insurance companies. And we seem to do that because everyone in New Zealand is still able to get insurance, although at much higher prices we saw before the earthquake. In terms of insurance, as I said, something like 98% of people were fully insured. The government actually has a reinsurance program for the first amount of damage in properties. But the repairs have taken a very, very long time. It's taken something like 10 years. I was out for dinner just last Saturday night with friends, and they'd only just moved back into their house. So, well, and I know in Nepal, repairs and so on have taken a long time. In the Western world, it can also take a very long time as well. I was going to speak quickly about the fact that one of the issues has been the insurance policies have all had slightly different wordings. And that's made recovery much slower because when people wanted to have an argument with their insurance company, every insurance policy has had different wording. So whenever the court has set a precedent of what that wording means, it hasn't necessarily applied to your particular circumstance. So it's been sort of standardization in disasters is nearly always a good thing. And the standardization of insurance policies is something we haven't followed through. And then I was going to talk about the fact that the certainty insurance gave people was good, but at the same time, insurance also meant people argued for years with their insurance company. And that in many ways has also made recovery slower. So overall, now I was going to talk generally about the speed of housing recovery and so on. So, and I'm going to do all that in 8 minutes.
Thank you very much, Roger, for your time. We don't have any question answers today because we don't have the participants from the Zoom. But I have one question, Roger, for you. Considering the resettlement, one of the most difficult issue that we found, at least in our region, is linking the people's livelihood to the new area they are, resettled. So how is that experience in New Zealand, Roger?
So when people resettled and moved out, we didn't force them out in any particular time frame. So people could take their own time to move to an area that they wanted to move to. So there was no, you lived in an area that had gone red, you have to move to this area. So the whole thing, we made it so people left at their own speed and chose where they wanted to live. And I think that generally was a good thing because often people moved together. Neighbours who lived beside each other moved with each other, while older people might have moved into some other sort of more suitable housing as well.
Our experience from our side,
So the experience from our side is so many people are linked to the region. And so when they have to move, they can be quite a distance from the land which they've been farming. And then this actually is leaving people quite high and dry because they have to think of alternative ways of making a living in the place that they've gone to. And that's why I think there is this need for a sort of diversified livelihood support because they simply don't, they're not moving to a place, they're not choosing it because they found a good job to go to. They're not moving to Kathmandu to come and work. They're just going to another rural area, but this time with less access to land. So it's really difficult.
Good, thank you very much. So I'd like to thank you everyone from my side. At least some of us attended this mock session. It was perfect because we tested many things and we found that we have to improve a lot for the main event. So I request and thank you to Roger for your time. Would you like to say something? Yeah, please. No. So I request Dhruva sir to do the conclusion, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you especially Roger Sutton, former CEO, Sarah, New Zealand, and presenter Amanda Duff and other colleagues, those who have participated here. Especially the land issue is very, very critical issue and a very crucial issue in reconstruction and recovery. It is very, very complicated. I also visited to New Zealand last year, and many places, New Zealand, Christchurch, Wellington, many places we visited. Kayakora also. Kayakora, we also visited the epic center of Kayakora, and the land management system was excellent in New Zealand. We try to take some of the example in our area, in our reconstruction recovery from the lesson we got from New Zealand also. And thank you for Amanda Duff for your presentation. There are your presentation covered most of the beneficiaries. The landless beneficiaries are almost 7,900 beneficiaries, landless beneficiaries, and almost 6,000 vulnerable settlement beneficiaries. And we manage all of the beneficiaries. We provided land, government land, degraded forest land, and procured land by NRA. That is very, very complicated task we completed. And we are thinking about no one leave behind. We are handing over this task to Ministry of Urban Development. After 24 December, we are handing over, we are terminated, the NRA will be terminated. So that function will be handed over to NDRRMA and MOD, Ministry of Urban Development, and another authority created by the government, that is NDRRMA, and we will hand over the remaining task to those institutions. So they will take forward this issue. Those who are not taking the benefit from this provision, they will getting the more chance from that Ministry of Urban Development and NDRRMA. So thank you, everyone, commentator, presenter, and participating, all of you. I thank you, and I would like to close this session today, mock session today, and we will see in the real session on 8th of December. Thank you, Roger. Thank you, presenter and other staff, NRA, and other participants. Thank you very much. I close this session.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Roger. Bye-bye.
Hello. 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 Check. Hello. 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 हजुर हेलो चेक चेक हेलो हेलो चेक ल
अनि सर
तल म त म त यहाँ म होइन यहाँ म झप्पर बाख्राको कहाँ हुन्छ म हो र
होइन होइन के गर्नु छ यहाँ होइन जोडेको छ त हाम्रो त्यो टिम जोडिन्छ ठ्याक्कै जोडिन्छ तर यहाँ निवाजी अहिलेसम्म आएको छैन अनि चाहिन्छ सरको त्यो उसमा त्यसबाट गर्ने त्यसबाट होइन त्यहाँ राख्नु भोलि सेम गर्नु पऱ्यो क्या मोबाइल त्यसमा एउटा एउटा चाहिँ कमजोरी रहेछ यसमा आज मैले त्यही भएर म यहीँबाट गर्छु मेरो भिडियो छ आफ्नो कन्ट्रोल भएन भने उहाँहरूले कतिलाई भिडियो देखाउनुहुन्छ कसरी गर्नुहुन्छ कसरी थाहा हुन्छ उहाँहरूको कन्ट्रोलमा त हुँदै हुँदैन त्यहाँ पछिलाई चाहिँ त्यहाँ राखे पनि कन्ट्रोल त प्रेजेन्ट गर्नेलाई कन्ट्रोल हुनु पऱ्यो चिज गर्ने चाहिँ यहाँ हुँदो रहेछ तर एक मिनट गरेर चाहिँ टाइम 10 मिनट कसरी गर्नु सकिन्छ त्यो त झन् पिछडा स्लाइड म आफूले त आफ्नो अनुसार चाहिँ स्केप गर्न पर्छ स्केप गर्छु नेक्स्ट गर्छु कुनमा धेरै सेसन त यही राम्रो होला जस्तो छ यो मलाई यसो हेर्दाखेरि यो रेट्रोफिटिङको सेसन चाहिँ इन्ट्रेस्टिङ होला कि जस्तो मानेको छु मैले है अब त्यसैले चाहिँ सर अलिकति यो पार्टिसिपेन्ट चाहिँ सल्लाह गरौँ है को बोलाउनु यहाँ चाहिँ अलिकति यसमा रियलमा चाहिँ खास चाहिँ सक्दाखेरि चाहिँ एकदमै राम्रो सरलाई पनि इन्फर्मेसन अस्ति बोलाएको आउनु भएको सर जस्तै हामीले त यो अर्थक्वेक रिकन्स्ट्रक्सन एरियाभन्दा बाहिर रेजिडेन्सियल बिल्डिङको चाहिँ रेट्रोफिटिङको प्रमोट गरिरहेको थियो कि यसको एक्सपिरियन्सको आधारमा यो भेरी भेरी बिग फर एनआरए अल्सो किनभने यहाँको कुरालाई नेपालभरि लानलाई चाहिँ हो नि त मेन च्यालेन्ज त्यही हो अब अहिले हामीले चाहिँ बाहिर गर्दाखेरिको चाहिँ रिजल्ट के छ भन्दाखेरि नगरपालिकाले 1 लाख रुपियाँ दिनलाई एकदम रेडी यति कन्भिन्स भयो उदरिया नगरपालिकामा कि जसले रेट्रोफिट गर्छ 1 लाख बराबरको जाली हामी दिन्छौँ भन्ने पुग्यो अभियान होइन अब त्यसबाट चाहिँ 1 लाख बराबरको अर्को चाहिँ यो चाहिँ ट्रेनिङ सेनिङ दिन्छु भनेदेखि मान्छेले चाहिँ हजारौँ मान्छे रेडी भयो अरे रेट्रोफिट गर्नुमा किनभने देखे एकदम बलियो हुँदो रहेछ भन्ने कुरा कन्फिडेन्स बढ्यो इन्जिनियरहरूलाई जाने म्यासेज ट्रेनिङ विथ अदर हाम्रो सिस्टम र अहिले हामीले के गरिरहेको छौँ भने 1 करोड देऊ 100 वटा घर डेमोन्स्ट्रेसनको रूपमा चाहिँ रेट्रोफिट गर्दैछौँ भनेर जुनसुकै अर्गनाइजेसनले